Call the order of the select board meeting Monday, June 6th, 2022. You want to stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Sorry, we moved.
Oh, good.
Do you want a quick minute just to get your screen up?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. I read the packet.
So we got to add one item to the agenda is approve the purchasing policy, and we also need to add liquor control after public comment. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Yep, second that. Any further discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye. Sorry.
Okay, warrants. I have the general fund warrant dated June 3rd, 2022, in the amount of $50,178.75. Nothing really stood out on there. These are day-to-day stuff. If anybody want to make a motion?
I just want to ask just a quick question. I see maybe Kerry can answer it, or
Emily?
no, Anna, please, sorry.
Oh, Anna is not on right
No,
now, so
well,
I'm not
no.
quite sure
Hopefully you can
why.
answer.
Hopefully.
No, just saw a lot of tax overpayments going on. How does that work? Does that just go?
Well, usually, I mean, a lot of people have their tax payments, what's the word?
Escrow.
Yes,
Oh,
right.
sorry, it
Oh,
flew out
okay.
of my head.
Okay, yeah.
And they do make mistakes. And so when Anna gets to the last quarter of the year, she will true that up with what was owed versus what the bank has paid.
Okay, just hadn't seen a lot. So this happened when it happens, or is there?
It
Like
it
every
happens
6
more at
months,
this
or is it
time of
much?
the year towards the, we
Gotcha.
have 4 quarterly payments, but
Gotcha.
I see them a little bit in other times of the year, but mostly at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I never try to overpay on taxes.
Right, most people do not,
Ways to underpay.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion to approve that warrant?
So moved.
Anybody got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, Brian, you have the payroll.
I do. Yeah, let's
There's 3 this week, or this.
payroll. Yep. Yeah, 3 of them. Let's see, in order, May 20th, May 27th, June 3rd, all of 2022. Let's see, there is the May 27th is the one with the extra payments in it that are routine, but about once a month. So the May 20th is in the amount of $22,620.44. May 27th is $40,292.73. June 3rd is $24,040.76. Again, look through and they all look routine like we see each time here. So I make a motion that we pass all 3 payroll warrants as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Yeah, I have the miscellaneous warrants. I have the infrastructure development warrant for June 6, 2022. It's all related to the town hall, and it's in the amount of $16,715.40. This looks mostly to be related to the water issues and whatnot. Some of it, anyway. Yeah. So I make a motion we approve that warrant.
Anybody got a second?
I'll second it. Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a stormwater utility warrant dated June 6, 2022, in the whopping amount of $106.80. It's to the O'Rourke Media Group, the Messenger, and it's to pay for some advertising they had to do. So I'll make a motion that we approve that warrant.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And then I have the Stonehouse warrant, which is cool. It's dated June 6, 2022. It's in the amount of $10,125.62. And it seems to be almost entirely related to the electrical work that we did, I think. If you wouldn't mind, Jonathan, I see Alan's here. It'd be cool to explain what we've been doing over there. will we discuss this, if that's alright? I'm just curious, I mean, I see all the invoices and it's for parts and pieces, but I don't really know
If
the.
you're
Specifically-
comfortable, Alan, if you wanna give a brief description of what's going
Yeah,
on.
please.
Sure.
Just nice, people see us doing work over there, but it's nice to know, like,
Right.
what we're doing.
So the electrical upgrades are, the 4 pedestal pads. There's actually 5. There's 2 on each end of the stone house and the main pedestal. That's all power that's been put in for vendors and bands and stuff like that in the future, which is providing more power to the stone house when we end up renovating it. At the same time, the temporary power that was over there from last year got moved over. We used that meter head to go on the pump house because we had to upgrade our power with a new transformer and that for our well. That's going to be hopefully up and running as soon as we get the state testing and stuff like that done. So there's a lot of parts and pieces moving, is trying to upgrade the power at the stone house and at the same time do it over at the pump house. And at the same time, we had 4 new LED lights put in. Having a lot of vandalism lately this year, so we've got 2 lights that are shining that kind of brightens up all the ball fields, and then we put 2 on the poles over near the pavilion that shines towards the stone house in this way. So this end of the park is lit up a lot better to deter people from doing bad things.
What have they been doing?
Forcing the windows open, getting inside the building. In our other park, they kicked both doors in, broke the doors on the bathrooms. We had to replace doors. And then 2 days after that, they tried to kick in the new doors. So it's unfortunate, but
Would it be possible to have an outer door of steel bars to put on there? To close at night? I know some places do that.
yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know. It'd be a hassle going through the historical part for this building. It'd be easier for Cohen if we did it down there.
You having trouble there too?
Yeah, that's where they kicked in the 2
Oh.
doors.
We actually were actively putting an RFP out to get security cameras that have Wi-Fi, are Wi-Fi enabled, so we have live access and motion sensors on all the buildings. Including
Wow.
there, down at the park and then town hall, the new one, the old one, and our garage.
Wow.
We'd like to get their picture, we'll find them.
Hopefully that'll help, hopefully the lights will help.
I think so.
That's a,
I mean, if you've been by the park at night, it's pretty dark, so by getting lights on this end, we've lit up this half of the park, and then eventually maybe we can get some down on the other end. I mean, the more light, the less apt you're gonna be trying to do something, so.
What is the rough ETA on the well? So we missed a farmer's market, lack of water.
Well, it wasn't a lack of water, we're tied into the old water right now. We had some pipes burst and we had to get a plumber in, so we had no bathrooms to open up on the very first day. But since then, the bathrooms are open, we're running with the old system. Chevalier is so busy right now, it's getting, now that the electrical's done, we gotta get the pump dropped in, pump it down, then we gotta send that sample to the state. And hope that we don't run into the same thing as we did at town hall. And,
If
That was
that's
a-
good, can we pipe it over there? You guys got time to dig a trench over there?
yeah, we just bore a line over, you can tap into this one, because,
Run right through the lake, there's nothing in the lake.
That's right, go right around the end of the dock.
so it's a slow process, but
What did we bore the sewer line? Like 1,600 or 2,000 feet for the town garage? They
It
came
was a
over.
while, but we didn't go under a body of water.
No, I'm just saying like, it has been done before.
Yeah.
To go that far for a utility. The sewer for the new town garage comes from the old city pool area.
Mhm.
Came through the peon farm. But
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the update.
Thanks, Alan. So
thanks, Alan.
thanks for indulging me, Jonathan. So Stonehouse warrant, June 6, 2022, $10,125.62. I make a motion to approve.
You got a second?
Yep, second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I believe you got one more there. Is that it?
Do I have one more? No, it's
You
just
all
the
3 of them? Okay. Now the minutes you have in front of you. From Monday, May 16th, 2022. If anybody have any changes, if not, I'll get a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay, number 4, public comment. Anybody here to make a public comment? Go ahead, come on up, state your name.
I have copies for the board.
Thank you. Let me pass that down for you. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Pass it down to Mr. Kerry.
My name is David Bray. I'm a 73-year-old retired business person who have been a resident of the town of St. Albans for 33 years. I grew up in the city of St. Albans, and other than an 8-year absence for college and work assignments, I've been a lifetime resident of Franklin County. I followed the town and the city politics as long as I can remember. So it was with invested interest that I reviewed the Town Selectboard special meeting regarding disciplinary action against Alan Mashter, our Public Works Director. I found the meeting informative and well-structured, but when I heard the Select Board's ruling, I was sadly disappointed and embarrassed for my town government. Based on all the testimony I heard, in my opinion, there was no solid grounds to suspend Mr. Mashter for 1 week without pay. In fact, it is my observation that either the voting Select Board members slept through the meeting or it was predetermined outcome. I say this only after reviewing the meeting twice. I am concerned that the Select Board's action or similar future actions could expose the town taxpayers to an expensive lawsuit. Note, I have heard nothing that would indicate that Mr. Mashter has any thoughts of suing the town. However, a few years ago, the town of North Hero found themselves in a similar situation. I recall the Vermont League of City and Towns had to get involved to train the town clerk's office personnel, select board, and etc. It might be time for the town of St. Albans to consider personnel training. During the special meeting, I heard Mr. Mashter being charged with 1, improper bartering of $60 worth of road salt. 2, improper advertising by leaving out the word plow for an old town truck being put up for sale. 3, offering suggestions at a town brainstorming meeting without first clearing the idea with the supervisor who had requested him to attend the meeting. And 4, accepting free exercise equipment at the town garage. Testimony was given by Mr. Mashter's supervisor that he had been properly warned prior to performing some of these accusations. However, nothing was shown to have been placed in his personnel file to prove that fact. I heard testimony about the town's personnel policy, which includes directions for disciplinary actions. First, a verbal warning of wrongdoing should be given, preferably with a witness. Second, a written write-up explaining the incorrect action and what needs to be done to correct or prevent the action from being repeated. Third, suspension without pay or dismissal. Nowhere did I hear about a written warning being placed into Mr. Mashter's file. In business, we do not consider an annual review to be a documented disciplinary action. Disciplinary and annual review have 2 different meanings. In hearing about the annual review, I could not tell if the reference to not starting new projects was in reference to the town beach or something else in general. At best, it was a vague directive. As an example, in practical terms, should Mr. Mashter now call his supervisor to get permission to remove a fallen tree blocking the road? Would this be considered a new project under the board's interpretation of under his annual review? In business, we have a professional certification called ISO 9000. This documents how a business is to conduct itself concerning vendors, customers, personnel, operational procedures, etc. If something goes wrong, we are required to find the root cause of the failure. A first glance does not always point out the real root cause of the situation. As an example, I ran a warehouse where we had to ship clothing to various retail stores. I received a complaint where we had sent blue blouses versus black blouses that were ordered. My first reaction was to call the employee who picked the wrong order and asked if he could read. He replied yes. I then asked, why the blue versus the black? He replied, they're all black. The employee was colorblind. Instead of issuing a disciplinary write-up to his file, we retrained the employee to pick product by reading the item numbers. The problem went away. Does the select board or Mr. Master's supervisor know the root cause of Mr. Master's alleged errors? Regarding the salt bartering issue, I heard testimony that Mr. Master was authorized to barter related to town vendors. The case in point was the city and town bartering agreement for, I believe, stormwater, culvert cleaning, and road sweeping. What is the difference between bartering $60 worth of salt for $150 worth of future labor covered by a signed agreement with a current town vendor? I believe I heard that after this matter came to Mr. Master's supervisor's attention, she had a directive issued saying that bartering could not be handled in this manner. I must ask how Mr. Master can be held accountable for a rule that was issued after the fact. Isn't that like changing the speed limit from 35 to 25 and issuing a ticket to everyone who drove down that road while the limit was still 35 miles an hour? The Webster Dictionary has a different definition for bartering and selling. I do not hear testimony that salt was ever sold, only bartered. If Mr. Master's supervisor felt he was not being transparent when she asked if he was selling salt and he said no, then a proper follow-up question to find the root cause might have been asked, why am I hearing these stories then? Find the root cause. In my opinion, the charge leaving out the word plow for a truck sale is simply nitpicking. Did the board not hear the testimony from the gentleman who purchased the truck? I recall he said it took at least 100 hours of skilled mechanic work, $11,000 in parts, and $1,000 to fix a plow just to get it roadworthy. How much more does the select board think the town could have gotten for this vehicle if the advertisement included a plow? As a comparison, I checked around when I sold my truck last winter. It ran great, had minimal rust, but needed brake and gas line work in order to get inspected. Good News Garage offered a $500 tax credit, and a local garage offered $400. The town truck buyer stated that he had probably overpaid for this vehicle, and I think many town people would agree. Then we go to the free exercise equipment placed in the town garage. Why did it take over 3 months for Mr. Master's supervisor to discover it was there? To properly supervise, shouldn't a supervisor visit all of their major sites under their control more often than every 3+ months? Root cause once again. Upon finding that there was an issue with the exercise equipment being in the building, didn't Mr. Master remove all of the equipment within 3 days? The public who I have talked with concerning Mr. Master upsetting his supervisor by offering a suggestion to resolve a water issue at the town garage during a brainstorming meeting without first discussing the idea with her baffled all of us. The supervisor invited him to the brainstorm meeting, assumingly to participate. Did any of the select board members ask the supervisor how she would conduct a brainstorming meeting? Isn't this type of meeting intended to spontaneously flush out good and bad ideas? Did someone's ego get hurt because Mr. Master thought out suggestion was considered? Is this action worthy of a critical write-up? What was the root cause for conducting a successful brainstorming meeting? Having lived in the town for almost 33 years, I have never seen the winter roads in such good condition. Before Mr. Master, I could always tell when I entered Swanton along McQuam Shore Road. The Swanton roads were sanded and cleared. The St. Albans roads were often snow-covered and icy. Now with Mr. Master, the town of St. Albans roads are cleared and sanded better than the Swanton roads. Before Mr. Master, the Bay Park was falling down and in disrepair. After Mr. Master, the Bay Park has come alive and without much burden on the taxpayers. Mr. Master has even testified that the Bay Park could soon be self-supporting. I have heard that Mr. Master was involved in securing many grants worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to the town. Why doesn't the select board recognize and appreciate his special efforts instead of tossing this nasty suspension in his face. Prior to Mr. Masters' employment, how much did the town miss out on grants, town appearances, free overtime, etc.? I am only one vote, but from this public hearing, I feel Mr. Master is a wonderful town asset. I recalled hearing that Mr. Master's work hours were from 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., but he would often be seen in his office after 5 p.m. Do we have any other town employees as committed to their job? How much free overtime do typical town employees perform compared to Mr. Master's performance? Are the select board and the town manager's action worth damaging a good employee's attitude? It's my strong belief, and that of everyone who I have discussed this topic with, that the select board's decision to support Mr. Master without pay is a travesty of justice. If we lose or future demoralize star employees like Mr. Master, then you are all to blame. How do you professionally justify your actions after 5 years of well above average annual reviews without finding the root cause of the accusations that have been made against him? Please consider taking personal opinions and hurt feelings out of your professional decision-making and stick with what is the root cause. There is a strong public opinion from those familiar with your actions that the suspension order without pay should be immediately rescinded or at minimum put on hold until you determine the real root cause. Furthermore, I strongly suggest that it's time for the St. Albans Select Board and other town management to seek management training from the League of City and Towns or other people skilled in human resources. Understanding a root cause and then acting properly on all personal matters, etc., will help to prevent the town from being exposed to a costly future lawsuit. The Select Board and Town Manager are in charge of our town, so it is up to you folks to run all aspects of this town properly. Sincerely spoken, J. David Ray. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comments?
So will this just be a dead issue, or is it something that you folks would consider?
So I'm not gonna comment on this right now.
Mhm.
That's my comment.
Okay. I think you made a big mistake.
I would just say, I think, and I don't know all the ins and outs of all the laws and everything. My gut would say that this is something we'd have to talk about in executive session because it is personal.
I would agree.
So certainly couldn't talk about it in public, at least that's my understanding of the rules, so I will.
The only reason that I was curious about that was that it was conducted as a public hearing. I realized you did have to go into executive session in order to make a ruling, and maybe that's what you want to do again, but.
The select board isn't at liberty to discuss if the employee chose to make that hearing public, and we did at their request. It was their decision. We're not able to talk about anything else. Just legally, we're not. Talk about liability, that would be a liability to the town if we chose to comment.
What about public comments that select board members might make at the local base store about an employee?
If someone has heard that directly, they can contact me and I will write that down, absolutely. But we can't talk about it publicly. I know it's a little confusing, but as public employees, we're allowed to a level of privacy. That entire meeting could have been in private. And it was Alan's decision not to do that. I know it seems odd, but we're advised not to comment on that publicly. We cannot.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, I have nothing more to say.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Rowe has a question.
Sorry, I did not see that. go ahead.
Don't let her speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're not.
Save it.
Can you save that, Amanda?
Oh, it wasn't a question. It was just a concern about the stairs at the Bay Park.
Oh, okay.
Like
Oh, go ahead.
they almost, we were visiting the park and I almost fell on the stairs. They crumbled underneath me. So I'm just worried about that liability for the town. Like that really needs to be fixed before like someone gets hurt.
The steps going into the lake, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
We might have to block them off because we can't do anything at the beach without contacting the historic division, so. Oh, thank you. Well, noted. Well, which ones? All right, thanks.
Okay, liquor control board time, and we don't have that paperwork.
No,
Or do you
Anna,
have
are
it now?
you, oh, there she is. Oh, you're,
Sorry.
Okay, hold on just a sec. We
I
got.
was challenged.
we got what? I'm sorry. Just hold 1 minute,
Well,
Anna.
is she not gonna bring that license in front of us?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask her.
Okay, ask her. Okay, yeah, go ahead. We don't
Do you
have it.
want them to tentatively approve it, or do you wanna skip the liquor control board issue, cause we don't have the papers? Now she's frozen. Technology is only so good.
Oh,
I'm sorry, you
I'm
were
sorry.
frozen.
I got to present them for you. That's a new application.
We didn't hear
Um,
anything you just said, so you have to start over.
I forgot to put them in front of the board.
Okay.
It's a new plate. Mm-hmm. All right, let me see. I'm having trouble here. That's a new application, ending sold. So Mill Rivers, opening up a tap room. Michael's bought that building.
Okay.
And it's an application for them to go in front of Department and Liquor Control. If 3 of you come in and sign off that application, then there's going to be an investigation and they'll approve or disapprove it. It's just an application.
Okay, so it's not the typical just approving the liquor control
Did you
license.
hear me?
Yeah, we heard that part. So it's not just a liquor control application approval, it's just the beginning approving the application itself, not
No,
the
those
license.
are not,
So we just gotta, 3 of us gotta come in and sign it. We don't have to.
that's. Yeah, exactly. It's new.
Your internet connection is really horrible. So if we
That's
make a motion tonight, is that okay? And then the 3.
If you were at the tap room.
I'm glad you got that.
This is horrible. What was the name of the business?
Yes.
No, we
Mill River, right?
Trying.
Is that what she said?
It's a tap room for Mill River.
Mill River Tap Room.
it's called so the approval needs to say Mill River Tap Room.
Mill River Room.
Okay, I think it's Mill River Tap
That's
Room.
what yeah. So does anybody wanna, well, we gotta
Right. So
recess the
yes.
select board first and go to the.
yes,
control
I would
board,
go
right?
through
So-
those motions.
Okay, so-
Second that, yep.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody wanna make a motion to, allow us to start the application for the Mill River Tap Room?
I'll make that motion.
Right, that's what we're doing, right?
Yes, that is
Start-
what I
or-
understood.
Single sign. Yep, second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, we're done with that. Anybody wanna make a motion to reconvene as the select board and close the liquor control
I'll
board?
make a motion, we close our liquor control board meeting and reconvene as a select board.
So I'll move the second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay, Kerry, town manager's report, take it away.
Great, thank you. So in front of you, you have the summary of the options we've been discussing for town hall. At our last meeting, the committee had recommended option 2, which we call using the RO system, using the well we already dug, and putting the RO effluent or waste into a holding tank that we'd then periodically get rid of. And there was a cost for all of that, right? But it seemed the best option. And at that time, there was some brainstorming about, hey, maybe we should go with what I called option 4, which is paying for bulk water to be delivered to town hall. That option, we did research, and as the numbers came in, it started to become very, very expensive. Emily was key in helping us explore some other options here. And so we did get the prices, you have that in front of you. Ended up being more expensive than just taking the RO away, and honestly, the unpredictability of not knowing when we could get deliveries and how much future delivery cost would be was pretty scary. So we came up with option 4, which is something I think John Montaigne mentioned. There's Jeff had mentioned it, a couple other people mentioned it, and we discounted it at first, but sharing the well came up as
This is 5, right?
option 5 is sharing a well, using a neighbor's well that's existing that has a good yield. So Emily and I spoke with Deb Barney from Pearson Associates, a subsidiary of Du Bois and King, about how much water would we need to supply the town hall. Really, there was an initial analysis done with the state that I won't get into those details, but that they thought we needed 5 gallons a minute, but with 2 300-gallon water tanks, Deb said you don't need that much water. You have the ability to store it for high use like meetings and things like that. So we came to the conclusion that option 5 could be a real good option if we used a neighbor's well and just tied it into where our current well was coming into the building. Then we would have potentially very clean water. That 2 of the neighbors we contacted were agreeable and do not have salt in their water. But then Emily thought perhaps she'd circle back to Chevalier's. She did and said option 6. So we keep going, but it gets better. Maybe we should frack the well that we've already drilled, find out if we can get water at a lower depth and possibly cap the bottom part of the well.
You can get water at a higher depth.
Right.
I mean, higher depth, yes, absolutely correct, yeah. So Emily contacted Chevalier's and asked, hey, would this work? And they said, absolutely, it's possible. It's possible we could get to you fairly soon, and they gave us a price. Emily, what you don't know is we gave them the budget, but option 6 costs they didn't print.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
So option 6 costs didn't print in the spreadsheet that we had electronically. For some reason, when we printed it, it's not on the back. Doesn't show up. So
So Chevalier quoted us $6,000 to cap and frack the well. He would start with fracking at a shallower depth just to make sure he was actually getting into water, getting a yield that we could work with. But again, having the storage capacity in those tanks in town hall, that does give us some variance with what our yield rates need to be. I think the initial concern was the permit was originally written for a house, and so it was calling for 5 gallons per minute, and we have a much lower requirement for our needs. And so working with Deb from Pearson, she said our minimum could be 2 gallons per minute, and that's if we're sharing a neighboring well. So essentially, it could be even less than that if we're on our own well. And we could always refill tanks in the middle of the night if need be. But I think there's a lot of options for working with the yield rate that we get. But he's available as soon as Friday to do, well, as of last Friday.
Yeah.
He was available this coming Friday, the 10th, I believe.
yes,
To do the work. And he would start by fracking it. If he finds water, he would then seal it, and then we would have to run a test to make sure we're not in salt. But given all of the neighboring wells, I think part of this came about because I started contacting neighbors to see if their yield rates or if their wells were clean enough to be able to share. And everybody that I talked to, I think I spoke with 4 homes on Wharf Street, and there are only, I think, 5 wells on that street. The rest pull out of the lake. None of them have salt. They have sulfur or hardness. Then I spoke to a neighbor across the road who again has sulfur. He said he does not have hardness, but he had a yield rate that was sufficient to meet our needs. So it started the wheels turning that potentially we could tap into that higher layer that most of these wells are at. They're in like the 450 range, and our current well is more at 620. So if we could find water at that higher elevation, the shallower depth, then we could potentially get clean water again.
So at one point the town had to settle with a neighboring property owner on Wharf Street over having a well that was contaminated with salt, if I remember that right.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what depth that well was at to have also found salt?
So there's 2 wells in that neighborhood that the town settled with, and they are unfortunately not on, there's a state map that you can track wells on, and neither of those are on that state map. So unless we found, and it could be Chevalier, I'm not sure who drilled it, but without finding the driller that might actually have the log, it can be a difficult proposition. Most of the wells in that neighborhood are 450. And those are the 2 that we know about, aside from our own, that has the high salt.
Well, at the time that we did that, I guess it was just assumed it was our salt that was contaminating the well without knowing
Exactly.
about this salt at that depth, so we
Mhm.
might have,
Incorrect. Oh.
but
Mhm.
that's,
I did, when
Way
I
over
spoke
the
to
dam.
Chevalier on Friday to ask him about this whole idea, he said he just did one last week. He's run into 3 wells in the last month that have been in salt. He's assuming Champlain Sea. He redid one last week, fracked it, and it came out fine. And so then he has 2 more scheduled, in the near future.
So it's a $6,000 shot in the dark at a chance of saving $43,000.
Correct.
Exactly.
Is that
And
the total
The
6,000?
ongoing
No, no.
cost is our own well, our own water. We
Right.
wouldn't have any
Yeah.
concerns.
And
I mean,
I
we
would
were-
imagine we're not
we
paying
would own it.
DEW $9,000 or any crazy.
No,
thing
we
to
were
oversee this.
we were gonna have them oversee it for a few thousand, and Chevalier might still have to, depending on the test, have some filters in the water room. So, but still, we're thinking 15 at the most, with all of those things included
now
is
this is with,
With
not
the-
using the arrow.
correct. Both so we're proposing that we try option 6 and then concurrently start moving slowly forward with that other option of the neighbor's well in case the well doesn't come back the way we'd like it to.
Now,
But
what
both
are the-
options.
What are, with the neighbor well, some sort of legal?
We need an easement. We put stuff in
agreement?
our budget to have a lawyer draw up some legal rights to that well.
And we're putting in here, it looks like $3,000 to pay to the neighbor.
Well, with
Okay.
just for work,
So I've been speaking with the neighbor. He does not. He's not worried about a payout. He's worried. He would like, while equipment is on site, he would like a sump reinstalled to his basement. That's his request if we do the work to his well.
Maybe we could get an estimate for that and pay him the actual cash value, that way we don't have any ownership in how the new pump performs, but that's a really simple,
we're gonna get into the
Reasonable
weeds
ask.
once we get a direction.
yeah. No, I don't know.
That's
You're
just saying,
absolutely correct.
Emily, so so it sounds like the fracking, capping is fairly high percentage? Like we think greater
I
than
think it's-
80%?
I think it's the way to go. I mean, I talked to Dave Chevalier on Friday, and he recommends it. And I think we would be out the money, but if he seals the well, he'd be doing it with a welded plug. He can always remove it. If we decide to use the well and go with RO 20 years down the road, it does make this well, it doesn't end the life of this well if it doesn't work. We would just be back in the salt layer if it doesn't work. And from judging by neighboring wells, I think it would work.
And Jeff actually called us. I don't know if you want to go or call Jonathan, right? Jeff couldn't make it, but did review the
Yeah, Jeff
options.
did review the options, and I think when he's He appreciates the options. He appreciates the efforts.
In the bulk water storage review,
Yeah,
but
frac
then
first.
6 and 5 were his preferred choices going forward as well.
I think
Um,
it's
do we
kinda
say-
no brainer.
You say do 6, and if that doesn't work, go move right ahead with
Yeah,
5.
I think
or-
that makes sense.
Right.
I think we
I think 6 only puts us out a few weeks if we try. I mean, it's a few $1,000s in a few weeks. We try it, we test it, and see what we get.
I make the motion, we go with option 6 immediately.
Yes, sir. Get it done.
He's available.
We do want to do it as soon as
Should
possible.
we,
Yeah.
Kerry, should we add option 5 as a contingency in that same motion, or should
Yes.
we do a
Like
second
it
one?
is anyway.
I would appreciate it that way if,
All right.
if he,
That's
what I was
With a backup of option.
yep, option 5, which is the neighbor's well, yeah.
Mhm.
And we also did, talk to, Dave Chevalier about returning the equipment we've already approved, and, he was fine with that and wouldn't charge us a restocking fee, so we're not out the money for the RO despite having, he's being really good to us,
Yeah, that's-
despite having us previously approved.
I'll be end up in the sugar house somewhere in a few short months.
Yeah,
Those guys do a lot of work.
so we.
Anybody want to
You
second that
second that?
motion?
Yep, second.
Brian's got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. So thanks to everyone too, to the extra
Yeah,
effort. It's, this could turn out to,
I think it was worth
you know, taking a
all the
peek.
different explorations
Mm-hmm.
rather than taking the first one that came down the pipe.
Or the second.
Yeah.
The third.
I don't know what was the second one though.
Or the 4th.
For, oh, okay, thank you. All right, so that one, great. The next one is, we have Velco, different people. Shauna, right? Or no?
Oh, I'm Ally.
Eric-
Shayna,
Ally.
Shayna's
She's
on the
online.
line, yes.
Okay, so we've talked via email, so all of you can come up and use those 3 seats if that's possible. We'll be able to see you and hear you
Thank you.
better from there, perfect. And, oh, she's on, all right, perfect. So Shauna is online, so you have the select board did get your PowerPoint presentation. Is Shauna gonna put it on?
I think, yeah.
I think she was gonna try to share it.
Shayna was
Oh,
one of
perfect, Shayna, sorry.
That's okay.
Hi there. Yes, I have it ready to go when we're ready. And if I can share my screen, I could pull it up right now, or if you want to make introductions, Scott, I can do it right after that.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Scott Mallory. I'm a project manager with Vermont Electric Power Company, also known as Velco. And appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I'll try to go quickly through a presentation in 10 minutes or less, and then take questions. This was set up just to introduce who we are, what we're doing, and kind of where our transmission line runs throughout the town of St. Albans.
And I'm Ally Brown, and I lead the real estate and right-of-way department, so I'm sort of like a landowner liaison. I handle easements, but I also deal with properties and the communication throughout a project, and yeah, thanks for having us here tonight.
Is that communication with between you guys and us, or is that also with the public?
So Shayna is more or less the person who's gonna be communicating at the town level. I'm more at the landowner level. So I will be personally meeting with landowners on specific properties. So we work together on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'll go next. My name is Shayna Loisel, and I work in the communications department. And as Ally just said, will be the liaison between all the towns that the line goes through, and any information that you need or would like to connect with Ally, Scott, myself. I'd be happy to be the person to get you in contact with.
Thank you, Shayna. Are you able to share the screen, Shayna?
I did make her host, so she should be able to at this point.
Okay.
Hope. There we go.
There we go.
So people on Zoom can see it.
That's
and
right.
People do.
And I presume that you folks have seen this already electronically,
Yes.
so you're comfortable with it. I'll breeze through quickly The first couple slides tell you a little bit about Vermont Electric Power Company, or Velco, in terms of our vision to create a sustainable Vermont in doing what we do, which is transmitting electricity. We are, in a sense, kind of the highway, the interstate system for the electricity throughout the state of Vermont. We have 735 miles of transmission line and 1,500 miles of fiber optic communications lines going throughout the state, as well as a radio system, 13,000 acres of rights-of-way. That's a lot to manage, Ally, thank you. And about 55 substations, switching stations, and terminals. What we're here today for is to talk about the Franklin County line upgrade project that we also call K42. It's our designation for this particular line. It crosses between 4 towns, Georgia, St. Albans, Swanton, and Highgate, and it runs 16.6 miles. It was constructed in 1958. Velco was created in 1956. So the majority of the 212 structures are wooden and aged. They are in poor condition, and we need to do something about that. This is the main transmission path that feeds northwest Vermont in the cities and towns to the south, as well as carries 225 megawatts from the Hydro-Quebec contracts that many of the Vermont utilities participate in.
Can I ask a question about the map? It's on a few others.
Yeah, are you able to?
Well, the one that's just, coming off K42 going east St. Albans City, is that another line? Is that one that's there, will be, or?
That is one that's already there.
Okay. So that's just, you're showing it's going that way, but that's not being replaced.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's called our tap line, and
Yep.
yeah, it's just a short little segment that's already there, and that won't speed.
Correct.
What feeds off that?
There's a substation
Is that the one on,
at that triangle in right on the border of the city.
Yeah.
is that the one that's on the Nason Street?
Nason Street would be, yes, that's right, it ends at Nason Street, but it goes over to McCracken Road, and that's where it ties into the K42. And then you'll see that dot near Georgia, and then the square up near Highgate, those are also substations, so that's where those lines start and terminate.
Now,
And
other
those-
people use that substation, Green Mountain uses that one on.
So our substations take this power in at high voltage, and then we step it down for your distribution utilities like Green Mountain Power to bring that power to your home or business.
So if you're familiar with the zoning map, this runs through a lot of forested area / conserved area, and doesn't impact too many residences. If you could move to the next slide, Shane, please. Approximately 70% of the existing 212 structures have either aged out, meaning they're not safe to leave in place for another 8 years due to their age being over 60 years, as well as various issues of woodpecker holes, cracks, splitting, leaning, and if Shanna, you can switch to the next few slides, just pause on these for just a few seconds to show some pictures that show kind of the rotting, the woodpecker damage, and splitting, and even target practice, since that's what people do sometimes. Thank you, Shana. This particular transmission line segment is difficult for us to take out of service to do repairs on or to do replacements on because it's a major feed, not only supplying the power from Hydro-Quebec heading south, but also supplying the Vermont Electric Co-op service territory in northern Vermont. And so if we had this line out for an extended period to replace all these poles, that creates a reliability problem, because then the kind of VEC service territory would be fed primarily from the far east of Vermont on just one line serving it. And if there was a lightning strike or something else happened, that caused an outage on that one line, then we're into a situation that causes voltage support problems, potential blackouts, which we then have to restart the system on. So
So it's important, you're saying?
it is important.
Very.
Great summary.
So then that kind of leads into the next slide of, we have a problem, we have aged and failing structures that we need to replace, and how can we best replace those while keeping this valuable line in service? So the proposal here, and this is not necessarily to scale for the drawing, but this is, and you know, we're gonna come back with engineering details. We're postulating that a side-by-side line would be best, would be, you know, make most efficient use of the right-of-way. And we're proposing a single pole design, similar to the graphic here. It would be taller, but snugged right up to the H-frame. That's what we call these two-poled structures, snugged right up to that. And then once that single pole is constructed and energized, we then remove immediately the existing H-frame or two-pole structure. And this would free up additional space in the right-of-way. We do not have any plans for the foreseeable future. We forecast out for 20 years at a time throughout our system and to meet the needs of the state of Vermont. But at this time, we do not have any needs for an additional line in this right-of-way. However, this project would free up space for a potential, you know, second line if that has to come. So in doing this, this would keep the existing line energized, which is valuable from a reliability standpoint, in serving the load of Vermont Electric Co-op territory, as well as the different generators, the renewable generators such as Community Wind, Sheffield Hydro, Sheldon Springs. There's many needs, you know, also across New England to have this line in service. So the proposal is to change the design to a single pole design instead of just replacing the existing two H-frame structures of the kind.
How much taller is it? I'm just curious. You said it's taller and you said it's not to scale.
Yeah, we
but
don't have specifics, but
like 5 feet?
I'd say
something like
roughly 30, maybe 40 feet.
40 feet
Yeah.
higher than the old ones, or
Yes,
40
taller
total?
than the existing ones.
You can see where those conductors would meet on that H-frame structure. We
Yeah.
don't really want to decrease any clearance. I mean, we have a lot of farms and vehicle, you know, we wouldn't want to decrease on those clearances. So when you go vertical, it you know, you still have to keep the
I'm
separation
probably-
in those phases.
I'm thinking of the ones like by my house, so we're not talking about those. We're talking about the big.
Right, so not your
Gotcha.
roadside
Okay.
poles.
Right.
This is gonna be the big H-frame structures that
Gotcha.
you only have that one corridor coming through town.
Mhm.
It goes over by Bronson Road, Lake Road.
Yep.
Kellogg, yes.
Gotcha.
Alright.
So that segment.
So just the next slide, please, Shana. Thank you. The new single pole design is more efficient for construction. It avoids the outages, the generation that's in northern Vermont that would have outages and lost revenue. It allows the existing maintenance procedures to go forward with other utilities, not just Velco, but other utilities in New England that would have their maintenance issues hampered if this line is taken out of service. And it lowers our maintenance costs because we're proposing to replace the wood structures with steel poles. These would be self-weathering steel, so it's not a shiny steel. It's comes with kind of a brown patina and then naturally rusts. And from a distance, it really doesn't look that much different, in my opinion, than a wood pole.
And when we're talking about our maintenance costs, that really means ratepayers. Where you know that's ratepayer dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because we are regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, also the State Public Utility Commission, and our rates, our costs of service go into rates throughout New England. Vermont pays approximately 4% of that, and so the transmission costs that we're talking about here and saving money impacts everyone in New England, and that's what we're doing here. We're also proposing that while we're replacing this as a single pole, that we're trying to optimize this and do the best thing for the value of Vermont and the value of New England. And we're proposing to add a second conductor, which is the wire, so to speak. And we don't have a graphic on this at this point, but we'll come back with pictures and displays for you. Instead of having just one single wire, we'd have two wires and they'd be bundled with a metal spacer in between. And this would, while we're doing this, it's the most efficient time to do it. If we're pulling a wire anyway, then we might as well pull a second if the economics work out. We're still detailing that right now. But we expect that this will save losses and therefore dollars to Vermont and to New England. It also improves the system strength, the reliability of the system, and it addresses some existing export constraints that we have in what's called the SHII, or the Sheffield Highgate electrical interface. In a sense, you may have heard Kingdom Community Wind or other generators having issues where they built up in northwest Vermont, northeast Vermont, and then can't get that electricity out of that area because there's not enough load in that area to consume this, so it has to travel south to southern, central and southern Vermont. So this upgrade of a second conductor, while we're already replacing the poles, would have an advantage there, and allowing for more renewable generation in the state of Vermont. Shana, could you zip to the next slide, please? We have here, just to give you a kind of a high level on the schedule, is we're going through and discussing this with ISO New England, which is the system operator for the 6 states of New England. They manage the transmission as well as the individual state entities such as Velco. We've had discussions with Vermont Distribution Utilities and the Department of Public Service. We've started a line design from an engineering standpoint, and that's why we don't have specifics on pole heights or things like that at this point, but we'll come back to you on that. We've started also discussions with individual landowners, not with a lot of specificity,
No.
but with, hey, we're coming out, we're gonna be in your neighborhood, and we're just checking out on environmental restrictions, mapping rare plants, species,
Wetlands.
yep.
So we're gathering data, and landowners will be anxious to hear what this means for their individual property, right? So as soon as we get those engineering details, we'll be able to have more in-depth conversations with your town.
Mm-hmm. So our plan here is to, go back out, come back out to you and others and the individual landowners later this summer into the fall with some more details, and then talk about, okay, well, here's exactly what we propose, and please give us feedback. And at this point, we're planning to put that forward, that, the feedback and the design into the queue for the Public Utility Commission to consider during 2023. And that would then lead us into construction in 2024 and 2025. The 2 years of construction is designed to be in a linear fashion, so that it's gonna take us approximately 2 years to go through the whole 16.6 miles or 4 towns. So the impact to just your town would not necessarily be a full 2 years in length.
So how do you, what do you do this in the winter when like wetlands are frozen and stuff?
That is one strategy.
And you got a lot of farm fields here where you can't run through somebody's cornfield, you gotta do it.
And we also will be using a lot of construction matting for this project, so those are, they essentially look like railroad ties, they're timbers.
I
that
burn
are
them in my furnace.
So we have a large quantity of those that we'll be using in this project to help limit our impacts in cornfields, wetlands, rare, threatened, endangered species, things like that. So we will be working through any time of year, but we will do what we can to limit the impacts during any of those time of years.
Thanks. And the mats are a great example of limiting the impact, because they, protect against any serious ruts or damage. And then when the mats lift up, we've had a really good track record with things just springing right back to life.
Yeah.
So
They're hard on the chainsaw chain, covered with mud.
I've heard that.
Keep a whole bunch and pile it. Cut about 5 logs and you gotta change the chain.
okay. So I guess Shana, if you could click to the next slide, please. just gives you a little flavor for kind of some of the information that we're gathering out in the field this summer, looking for wetlands, stream crossings, different buffer zones that we have to adhere to for state of Vermont regulations. And we're doing some detailed mapping of all those resources that we find out in the field, and including test pits if we need to do, I think they're about 2 foot by 2 foot.
2 by 2 test pits for archaeology.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just something worth noting, we won't be able to do this entire line linear. We will have some places where we have to come outside of the corridor to gain access, where we're also assessing outside of that corridor on a few places for that as well.
Mhm. Next slide, please, Shayna. This just shows you some of the detail that we're looking at as well.
There's, in this town specifically, I believe I've estimated around 33 landowners that would be directly impacted inside the, the corridor that we'll be working with closely. That number might grow a little bit from abutters, where, like I was saying about the gaining access outside, but that just to give you a flavor of how many folks in the town, it's a pretty round number.
Mm-hmm. Next slide, Shayna, please. Just some pictures of what people do when they're out digging test pits on the lower right corner, or investigating different species that might be in our lakes and streams. Next slide, please, Shayna. And just in summary, this is kind of a very high level view of the number of poles or structures signified by the white circles that are crossing through the town of St. Albans. And again, it primarily hugs the forested area. You can see a little bit of kind of elevation or mountainous, and then heads north, crosses over Kellogg Road, and then up into the next town. And with that, I will stop talking and ask for questions.
I assume if someone calls us with questions, I can direct them. Who do you want me to direct them to first?
Well,
Shayna?
if they're direct landowners, I mean, Shayna, I guess, I'm fine with landowners reaching out directly to me. If you'd like them to funnel through you, that's,
They can do that. Occasionally people call here first.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, if you
just
wanna give
wanna
them my
know.
number, that's
Okay.
fine.
Yep, that's why we're here, is to
Awesome.
make sure that you understand it as well as
Yeah.
you're prepared for any phone calls that might be heading your way.
And on our website, you can always direct folks there. There's a way for them to make inquiries, and they can find my direct information right there under the landowner section.
Okay.
And Kerry, I can send contact information for both Ally, Scott, and myself. If anybody wants to reach us by phone or email, we're happy to take any calls from public members, landowners. This is right. Yeah, Scott had mentioned, this is kind of early into the project design portion, and as we get a more defined project in terms of the engineering and having more details, then we'll begin to start picking up more conversations with the public at large, with public meetings likely in late summer and in the fall. And then when the permitting process begins, there's very defined requirements in that permitting process where we continue to have public meetings, and then the Department of Public Service will, the Vermont Public Utility Commission will be holding a hearing specifically where it would be on public record and recorded for all the public input. Our job over the next 6 to 12 months is to make sure that any concerns that the towns might have or landowners might have, that we're working with them now before we even get to the point of permitting.
Perfect. And before, just a point of order before you leave us, please make me host of the meeting, or our meeting will end immediately.
Oh, yeah, yes. I'm so sorry, but how do I do that?
The if you put the cursor over the top right, it should say of my section there, it'll say, and the right, click on the right one, it'll be a drop down box, it'll say make host, and you just make.
Does that work, Gary?
You did it.
Okay, good.
Perfect. I might like to go home early, but we have other things. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
you very
Thanks for your
much.
time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Shana.
Thank you, everyone.
So the next item was the personnel policy review. We were talking, a couple different people that came up. We have not reviewed this policy since, as you can see, 2018. First go through, obviously I didn't make any significant changes to it. You have the current one. I guess I put it on here so that you could review it. And specifically section 12 to try to give us some direction on what it is, you know, you'd like us to do going forward. Whether or not we should still allow employees to use like the town garage for changing their oil. Or not, just to be clean, not at all. We just need to provide some clear direction so that people aren't upset when they might see an employee doing something that we're currently allowing them to do. Just trying to keep everybody on the same page. So it's not too long of a policy. I mean, the sections on ethics and conflict of interest were taken from an attorney's advice. We got their recommendation to review this, so feel free to look at it, but we already have had that part. We've had the whole thing reviewed actually a number of times. So at this point, I'm just looking at, please review it for things you find offensive or things that might just need to be updated. And we're gonna have, on my end, I'm gonna have the department heads do the same thing so that we can take a fresh look at it, make sure we're all on the same page.
It needs to fit how you manage the town, that's all, like however.
It does.
It needs it, so, yeah. To make it however we need to change it.
And it's now 4 years old, so 2018 seems like a lot, recently, but it's not really recent anymore.
Time flies.
It does, when you're having fun.
I mean, section 12, first sentence to me, there's not a lot of leeway there.
There is none,
It's
but yet,
it's direct, right?
correct. The use of town equipment or property for personal use is strictly prohibited.
Is there any appetite among any board member to change that? I guess is my question. I can start by saying, I think it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
I was the only member of the board that adopted that, and I remember at the time reading it and thinking from a liability perspective that it was important.
That's what I'm worried about, the
I mean,
Pandora's box.
we get our lift inspected every so many months or years. We do all of the things that we need to do, but if someone's in there by themselves is primarily my concern. If you're doing nights and weekends, chances are that you're by yourself in a lot of scenarios. What happens if there's an accident and there's no one there, and then, you know, we're sorry, someone's seriously hurt, we're sorry, and then, I don't know, I think we should leave that. I get there's a lot of value to reviewing everything in there and making a lot of adjustments if we need to, but that specific one, I would say we should follow it as it's written. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, I just don't know how you word it as such, as you know, you could do this, but you can't do it, you know what I mean, like, how do you?
It has to be
I don't
cut
know
and
how you-
dry, because if you allow somebody to do something with town property, who's to say that everybody shouldn't be allowed to do the same thing?
I guess, yeah, that's how you
There's
start
all,
to do it.
like, just close the door. That's my opinion, but, and we spend a lot of money on buildings and whatnot, and I get there'll be some allowed public uses, but everybody should be on the same playing field, and I don't think it's safe for anybody to be, unsupervised in our property doing anything without, I mean, I get it, vehicle maintenance isn't always the safest thing. You go to drop something out the bottom of a car while it's on a lift, and you drop it on your leg or something, and you're alone, what happens? Like, I get that we're gonna have Wi-Fi cameras at some point, but that doesn't really, and that's just the one scenario. Like, I'm not worried about somebody fleecing the place because there's
Right.
nobody there.
Right.
I'm worried genuinely about somebody.
Yeah.
So if if there was another board member that said we should allow that to happen, I would wanna put in some kind of language around, like, approvals and really formalize, like, you should have to request it and let people know when you're gonna be there. That way, you know, it's not just randomly show up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the garage.
Hasn't that been in all of them?
Hasn't what been in all of them?
Use of town equipment?
What's in that policy?
Is this something you just put in 2018?
I don't remember the answer to that.
I don't think we changed, that, I think that section was already there, but I can't
It's been there for
remember.
a long time.
It's been in there for some, I think we might have updated it a little, but the section was there, yeah. Yes, it was.
Corey,
So I'll put my former insurance agent hat on, where I insure a few municipalities and auto dealers. And I can tell you it's a big no-no from an insurance perspective to allow employees to work on their personal vehicles off work hours. It's a workers' comp claim waiting to happen. They get hurt doing that, they're on site, they can claim workers' comp. It's between you and your employee, but that's one of the big issues that a lot of private businesses put an end to that. So that's just from an insurance perspective.
I mean, I grew up with a stepfather who was a mechanic at the District 8 garage at Lower Newton, and till this day, I remember almost how many Saturdays I spent on my little course around that parking lot that I made with my little bicycle, riding around in circles, because all his tools professionally were in the District 8 garage, and he did all of our vehicle maintenance out of it. So that, I remember being in that scenario as a family member or someone that depended on that. And I think that's another perspective to look at, is what if somebody needs to do personal maintenance on one of their vehicles, but all of their tools are here? Like, is there maybe 1 or 2 employees, because of the nature of their work, that should get some kind of a structured pass? I don't want to be unfair to anybody and say, you can't access your tools unless you're on the clock, but also, like, someone should have to be there, like, either from the town or
You're
otherwise.
lucky you didn't get run over by a snowplow.
Yeah, no, it was always in the summer, trust me, and it wasn't nicely paved, so we had obstacle courses, and I used to ride and, like, be marveled because I was, like, this tall, and the salt pile looked like a mountain. And I used to think it was so cool being so close to the National Guard base and seeing the different things they had over the other side of the fence. But anyway.
so I guess we can chew on that for another week or 2 weeks. And then if you have any edits or send them to Kerry or what you think, and then we'll.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the other one I saw that, just an obvious one, section 15, just adding Juneteenth.
Oh, yeah.
But I think everything else, yeah, good to me.
Is there, like, from an insurance perspective, I guess, Corey, is there a benefit to having, like, an insurance agency like VLCT go through this, every couple of years periodically?
I would just ask on those specific issues, but again, the hard part within the employee situation, the side of one, I don't know if the town has employees, mechanics bring their own tools, and I don't know that.
I don't know either.
So I don't think you can always have them review it. They're only gonna look at it from an insurance perspective and not a legal perspective. They're gonna say this is a red flag for an insurance perspective.
VLCT might be a little different. They have lawyers on staff. I don't know if Passive would comb this over just to see. Like, there's statute references in there. I don't know if any of that's. It's been 4 years.
That would cost us money. I mean, they'll look at something at like a specific issue and respond, but if we want them to do our whole policy,
Just one thing that's
be an
become
hourly
prevalent in the last 12 months is that thing is the most valuable liability shield for the town, as long as it's followed properly. So whatever we have to do to upkeep that.
Correct. I would like to see if VLCT could put a set of eyes on it.
okay,
Just maybe just
Yep.
a quick email to whoever your contact is over there. Say if we're reviewing the
Even if we have to
personnel
pay.
policy. If it's a small amount. 'Cause
And
it's-
sorry. I'm curious if are there other policies like this in the state that allow that and it's written in somehow? I'm just trying to work
think
out
they
the
would be the one to
verbiage
know.
if it was even
Like, they insure almost every town.
possible.
It's like anything, I mean, you can do it, but if you have that injury, it just impacts your premiums. So it's about, do you wanna keep your premiums under control? It's the same with like allowing employees to work out at a gym, a lot of municipalities allow it. The LCT wrote you a letter earlier this year that said they recommended against it. Because again, if anyone gets hurt lifting weights, it becomes a workers' compensatable injury.
I mean, they do occasionally put out statewide big nets to say, hey, a manager in, and they'll say our name. You know, they're looking to find out if anyone else still allows this. And if you do, are there any restrictions? You know, they do
Well,
that.
maybe they have some
Yeah.
kind of a form
If-
or a format or
Yep.
how they go about doing that.
Well, they just ask other towns, and
Yeah.
if they have something in-house, they'll tell me, but if they don't, they'll just do that and see who responds, and we try to support each other if we have a policy like that, so. We can do that too.
Yeah.
And just see.
I'm just curious, but I
Mhm.
mean, my gut is just trying to. I can't think of a way that you could do it where it's safe,
Correct.
fair, legal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
department
If there
heads looking
was,
this over too.
it'd be great, but
Not yet, but I was going to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I'd love them to look at that as from like a, no matter what level you are in the organizational chart, do you understand how this policy's written? Like, do you have questions about its understanding, and should we tweak the
Mhm.
language to make that
Okay,
clear?
yeah, because we kind of view it differently than,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, it should be as black and white as possible, and there's some areas that seem to get gray. Which,
Yeah, it just needs to be clear and concise, I think.
I think when that policy was adopted, there were 2 or 3 model policies that became one. I think Alvogel did a lot of that work. And it took, like, before that was fully passed, I think it took over a year before it was all adopted, if I remember that right. So it's an important shield for us. And it it's supposed to codify the fact that our employees are guaranteed a safe work environment too. Good structure.
Correct.
All right,
Okay.
I'll come back after VLCT, and we've had department heads, so it might not be, our next meeting could be early July. Capital improvement projects list, or the draft list in front of you is a summary of things that we talked about a month ago. A summary sheet on the end of the table if you don't have one. It's, did I say that wrong? It is, right. It's not really a capital improvement, it was more like, well, we did call it that, but it's a list of projects, prioritized projects for the town that include sidewalks. It previously included things like build a new DPW, new town hall, start a stormwater utility. We've done those things. So what you have on this list is the remaining items, and a second page that's largely now blank, so you can dream about what you wanna do.
Okay, let's fill it up.
You can fill it up. It took a while to get many of those things, as you know.
It's a lot of money too.
I mean, I don't know if you want to do that this evening or talk about 1 or 2 items. There's a couple people here that wanna talk about sidewalks. I don't know if you want them to say their piece for a couple minutes, or just go over this. Jeff did not fill this out yet, so I'm thinking you guys wanna all be here, but if you guys wanna chat about it, we can go for it.
Do we have recommendations from department heads on this? Like, a lot of this stuff I think should come from in and up. Like, we have like public works needs identified that probably are gonna need some serious funding. Like French Hill, and I don't know about Black Bridge. I think we've done like a basic inspection of it and determined it was okay for now. But
Yeah, I mean, Alan got a,
it's just if we dream stuff up, we
report.
might miss things that we don't know are right in front of our face. It'd be nice to see what our employees think we need, and then be able to either tweak or add to it.
we do that each year at budget time. Right now is the time to say which direction do you want us to go. I mean, if you want me to go back and ask them that, I can. I just don't know.
They might know the needs for big projects, especially like ongoing maintenance projects. There might be a box culvert coming up on Dunsmore Road that needs us to put aside $100,000 in 3 years to match it. Like, I don't know, but I would hate to come up with hopes and dreams for projects we'd all like to see, like a a boat launch at the Old Town Garage property, redo the bay dock, and fund the stone house in a 10-year run. And then after that, it's, well, French Hill is gonna cost $700,000 or whatever it is. And then you got Black Bridge is gonna be obsolete in that time period. And then we're cutting things that we've already tried to garner support for. That's just, like, if we can fund the nuts and bolts and there's money left over to do the extra without really raising taxes on people. But the nuts and bolts probably should get looked at first, like the roads and the bridges and.
I mean, I guess I kind of see all of them except maybe the French Hill, which you could argue is starting new, but I see a lot of these as kind of new projects, right, in a lot of ways. The things you're talking about are maintenance if they come up with kind of.
Well, yeah, but all that usually belongs in a CIP. It's your total picture of all the projects that you want to do that are baked into your operating cost budget.
Is this?
Well, why couldn't you use your government money coming in on things like Black Bridge?
You can, you just got to plan for it.
Right, well, I mean, you gotta use it in a certain amount of time. If you're gonna throw it at infrastructure, there's a thing to use it for right there.
That's
That
definitely
ain't gonna
good.
impact the taxpayer.
That's definitely a good funding source, and it should carry, if not all, most of this burden.
Yes,
But
yes.
I mean, so,
The money has to be,
those are big ones, so, I mean, do we gotta look for a whole lot more?
no, depends. But
That's what I thought, these types of meetings were set in the spring, now we're in June, cause we got a little off schedule, but to set some direction, we had tried to do annual things like have the planning commission in the, in the spring, talk about these things that are both some maintenance and some new projects, so we have a little bit of everything in the pipeline, so we can get stuff done. To Jack's point, we need to have a public meeting probably in the next 3 to 6 months and start taking public comment on what projects are important to people. I mean, we did a survey not that long ago. People very much supported bike and ped infrastructure.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, actually, and so I think that should be addressed. We're doing something this year, but each year we should try to plan for and construct a project, small, big, just something. So.
Well, I'm just thinking too, one of them on there is, and obviously this hasn't been updated because it's now, we're here, but like DPW old site, just my personal thoughts like that, and we should probably add the building we're sitting in right now as big priorities, because it doesn't make sense to put them as number 10 and number 11, for example. Right? I feel like they're here and we should do something, make a decision on that.
there's just a lot of, we just spent almost $10 million on 2 major assets in the town hall and the garage, but there's still, the stone house needs ungodly amounts of money to be where it should be. The dock, we had a study done in 2017 or 18 that said if we wanted to raise it to keep it above water level all year round, that would cost at that time over $1 million. I wouldn't support doing that, but it's just we've got 2 impaired intersections down here and no real path forward and how we're gonna get them fixed. This area needs sidewalks like crazy if it's gonna have a true village center feel like it probably should. There's so much that we have that needs to be fixed that it's tough to, there's so many good ideas on things that we could throw money at that would really improve quality of life, but I kind of want to know what the expense of what.
Well, and frankly, with staff shortages, we can probably only add one more thing this year, right? So we're already doing the complex to the rail trail study, feasibility study. We have already, thanks to in large part to Corey's nudging, we have permission from V-Trans to start negotiations with the Route 36 with the state. We can maybe get some of our intersections fixed that way. That's a process we're gonna start separately, so I guess I'm wondering, right on the front line, is there something else you really wish for us to look at in the next 6 to 12 months? Because we're not getting all of these things anyway. So where do you want
Why pile on more?
Yeah, well, you can't, it's just not gonna happen.
Are there roads that need, are there roads or other transportation infrastructure that need some immediate attention that have just been
Well.
kicked aside for a while.
Alan would know that, right?
I'm sorry?
What road work and bridge work we would need.
I've got 2 box culverts out for engineering right now. Black Bridge, structurally engineered is good, but the deck is gonna have to be scraped down and repaved. So those are 3 little projects. It's a capital improvement project and it's something that we're just investigating. I'd focus on the stone house. It's a historical building in the town. It's the center of everything. It needs to be fixed and it's the highlight of the town. I mean, if it falls apart, you're letting history go down the drain and I think people are gonna be upset.
That's not, you can't use that government money for that though.
I think we have a lot of latitude in what we can use it on, especially if we seek
Well,
public
CCC built
input.
it, right?
Right.
It's kind of being the same, I mean,
That's what, remember like 2 months ago when I said we basically used the get out of jail free card from the feds and that we said we got a pass on if we had a shortfall in funding. It's just a big open check, so we can't use it on operations and maintenance, but we can invest in something in our town.
I mean,
Well, it
To be-
doesn't have to be one thing though, does
It could be a number, yeah, correct, it could be a number.
I mean,
But say you try to hit as many as you can, rather than one big thing.
it'd be really nice to see that money go into something that's gonna increase the grand list in the like commercial industrial space to help lower taxes on residences, but if we can't find a project fast enough. We also have like 300,000 for the next 10 years of the local option tax revenue dedicated to paying the town hall off, and that leaves us, you know, $700 to $1 million a year in funding to pull from to do other things with it. So the stone house, I would imagine, it seems like when they fix a historic building, it can take years by the time you source all of the required labor, and there's only so many vendors that will repoint an old building like that.
Do we have some kind of an engineered plan for rehabilitation of that building?
We got some conceptual plans done,
Okay.
and the
So
architect.
there is something.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's some of what Alan's using right now to rehab parts of the building. It involved using the bones of the roof to raise it up, put some windows and lights in that old changing area, and putting bathrooms and catering space in there. But that is just a conceptual plan. We never got to the part where we actually made construction plans or got a cost estimate beyond that. We had it done a year or so ago, and we tried to get another grant. But that's what I mean, like some of those things, like I think that's what you're all realizing, is it takes a while to get these things to the point where we can even figure out how much it costs. We have to go from conceptual to, all right, we're gonna do it, then we hire some people to help us get through that next phase.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Alan, Stonehouse, and then figuring out this building. I do want to ask, Corey, you seem to have more info on it, but when you talked a while back about the loop road, the 207, really intrigued me, right? Number one, because you said it's kind of one of those do it now or it may not ever happen because of regulations. The fact that it could open up more access to maybe commercial land possibly, and serve as an alternate route past Route 7. We talked about putting a sidewalk on there. It would be way less expensive, and that could work. I mean, of course, the other projects are probably more pressing, I guess. But if that one being kind of like a do it soon or good luck.
I think the loop road thing was kind of kibosh put to it, because the first thing we had to do when we came off of 207 was go into a wetland. And that's what stalled that, in my recollection, the last time I was here.
I think that's what Corey was saying. Right now, it's kind of
This is probably your last best shot at ever being able to get it done with the current administration. If that administration changes, my guess that goes away.
that involves the city too, don't it? Cause we have to connect on.
Not on 207, it was.
No, I think the first phase would be just to punch through the wetland and get
Yep.
to the backside of that wetland. And then
Oh, okay, not come out on Newton.
It could eventually.
you could eventually get that, but it's, you just.
Yeah,
build
we
that.
had, it was such a difficult project, so we split into phases. The first one was just teeing after you go straight on 207 and hook on to Walmart to the north and Price Chopper to the left. Gets through that most difficult part though, you're right. We needed a developer who's,
So at the time I recall, we weren't getting much cooperation from the Corps of Engineers. Kinda like never gonna happen.
it was more wetlands now, the last time I talked to somebody, but yeah, there were some challenges.
And we would need a developer to do it, I'm assuming?
The state actually, when pushed the last time, said they would work with me on getting that permitted. We'd have to pay some offset costs. They really pushed hard on wanting us to have someone who wanted to develop in that area first. We pushed back with, but we want a plan for that development, so the development happens where we want it and not clustering and ugly, and, you know, maybe an ag truck route around Route 7 would be good for everybody, including sidewalks. So we went back and forth a lot on that. Ultimately, they suggested it would be better if we actually had a developer there instead of trying to do it conceptually. That was like 5 years ago, though. It's a different atmosphere right now. I think if we said, look, we want to put a bike and ped route over there, and while we're at it, we want to direct traffic away from Route 7. Because when something happens on that road, it's difficult, and people can't get to between the north and south part of town without going on the highway.
They're the long way.
It's not good. So we could, yeah, that'd be kind of exciting to explore as well.
So you wanna do it, how do you wanna? You gotta figure out how we're gonna move forward.
Yeah, how does, do you think we could get department heads input on this, or do you think that's not needed? Like, because, well, just because, say if there is roads that need major repairs, like, why are we, you know, I agree with Alan on the Stonehouse thing for sure, that we need to, you know, 'cause that thing's in pretty rough shape, but.
I mean, we have monthly meetings. I can definitely bring it up and ask someone to.
Maybe you could fill it out as a group, like go right through it. And maybe we could add one more line, a department head meeting, and just see if after some discussing. I mean, these folks live and breathe the town 24/7. That's their job. They might feel their score either separately or together might be very different than whatever all of us fill out. I don't know.
So you're asking them to give their recommended project. Take all of the things they have on the plate. You know, maybe conceptual projects or existing.
I was gonna say, even if it wasn't, I mean, this is my thought here, but even if it wasn't a number, but it was just a pro and con for each one even. For me, something like that, some kind of more info. I'm going back to kind of where Brendan started, which is, I don't wanna miss something that I don't know how big of a, how important it is. I do agree the stone house, plate, you know, the structures that we actually have, that so many are sitting vacant, you know, we should figure out something with those. If it's get it off the you know, put it back on the tax roll or whatever it is. So we're not on the hook for, like the stone house, I mean, it's one of those, if we don't do, it's getting worse, right? I mean, if we just sit here, it's getting worse. We're putting, you know, we're getting some money and putting it in and making parts of it better.
Correct.
But you just worry about that roof and everything, so.
Some holdings.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think you got quite a bit right here. You don't need to look for too much more.
No, the order, because we gotta cross some things off. I mean, that's, right, we can't do, right?
Can't have it
Correct me if I'm
all.
wrong, we can't do all these, right?
That is correct.
By the end of the year?
Yeah, sure. That's fine. Yeah, that'll happen.
There's so much federal money available, Kerry. It's all should be done by next week Tuesday. No.
Give me authority to spend $2 million. I'm sure I could get it done, but need a little more direction on what we want done. All right, so I mean, what's the consensus then? You don't want to get any more ideas? I've heard three things, so it's unclear to me
I'd
what
just
you
like to
really
have
want.
department heads somehow review this, and then if it would be possible, like, you know, let's go through having their input and then narrow it down. And then when we get to that point, we should start to look at what it might cost and what the funding mechanisms are, like where do we want the money to come from? And then that'll start to prioritize. I don't know, remember when we were on the planning commission, we did the master plan, or so it was called, for all the new sidewalks in town. Cost was a pretty heavy weight, so just evaluating all those variable factors, having them in front of you so you can start putting things on a schedule and getting them done. But sooner better than later, I would say. I think there's a lot of these things that we already have plans on that we might be able to get. Like,
We do. I mean, like I thought I updated everything, but for instance, the old DPW site, you know, we have KAS working on finalizing what they found when they evaluated the soil, for instance. And there was a meeting not that long ago with someone who was gonna work on that with us, so we could take it to the next level. But so that's already ongoing. We have a meeting for this building we're in, the old town hall, on the 22nd of June, public meeting, to ask for input. So you're already doing that. You're asking for input on June 22nd. So I can ask the department heads to really carefully evaluate this, and for each section, their department, what are the pros and cons, and if you could propose one project, what would it be now, like this short term? Is that fair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we touched it all, okay? Okay, so that was number, this is D. It is a tough one.
makes sense to do it that way.
I think so.
Can we give Amy, who came, just like a couple minutes on the, yes, you can come forward, sorry. Amy,
Hi.
hi.
How are you all?
Good, how are you?
I'm gonna join me, Mitch. So some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Amy Brewer. This is my colleague Mitch Crane. And we're representing the Walk Bike St. Albans group. And so as you're talking about this, I want to make sure that we're keeping a few things in mind. There's a group of us here who are dedicated to helping support. We've got data and information and connections just to help you in decision making, and also don't want to lose sight of the Route 7 livability study, which Brendan may recall, but the rest of you, I don't think, were on the board then. So in 2018, in December, we submitted the report that looked at some conceptual designs of pedestrian, bike and pedestrian access between the city and north towards Walmart. And want to keep in mind, I was listening to the conversation, lots of conversation about what we need, what's falling apart right now, and economics. And want to make sure that I make the point that for people who are walking and biking between the city and the commercial area, it's not always just recreation. So I think who we see now are people, cyclists in spandex, right, doing the hardcore in traffic because they're confident. And we see people doing it out of need, maybe people with strollers, we see a lot. And want to make sure that the people who don't walk or don't have a car, don't drive, young people have good access to get to where jobs are, their jobs are. And the more safe you make that space, the more people can and will, especially if they need to. So I just want to make sure that I just have the one copy, but so for those of you who want to peruse this beautiful document, love it to not happen this year, but needs scoping and engineering, so keeping it in the plan for the future so that we can keep moving forward and keep our pedestrians and bicyclists safe as they're accessing needs and jobs. What else do you want? I talk too much.
Just hoping that we could go beyond the visioning kind of paper there, which has beautiful drawings about what could happen, to actually scoping it out and figuring out a way to do that with federal monies that are going to be available for building sidewalks. Don't want to lose out on that opportunity if we can. So, yeah, we would like to do the engineering step now.
And we're happy to try to rally private investors to complement anything that the town and the feds might put in so that we can get that moving. So we're happy to help play that role. I make no promises, I don't know how it will go, but we're happy to knock down those doors for you.
I have it electronically, so I'll kind of send you that study. I thought it might be helpful to break it into phases personally.
And it kind of is.
Okay, it
Each
already is?
segment has different designs, so you could look at, a really important piece of it was around the rail trail. So getting people to that rail trail and around and crossing the street, right? So that there's a clear designation of how to use the rail trail, that it doesn't feel like you're driving on a bike path and it's very strange. So really capitalizing on the infrastructure there. And then different treatments along the way based on the size of the road and the businesses and the uses. So it's broken down, I think, into 6 different sections, which you could then kind of look at phases. Not my area of expertise, but I reread it today and it was pretty clear. Great.
Perfect.
So
Thank
we
you.
are here, and Kerry certainly knows how to read that. So thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and reading our report again.
I uncovered a whole lot of stuff today. It was lovely reading.
So E on this list, Discover Northwest Vermont Guide, marketing piece. Select board didn't seem too excited about spending a lot of money on marketing this year, or maybe not in that market, so I was trying to get a flavor, some consensus on what you might like to do
But
going
this
forward.
seems to be a little different than the meet your business.
Absolutely is.
Right?
Yeah, well, we didn't set a policy, we kind of, so that's what I'm
It's a-
looking
it's a-
for.
So can you tell, what is it again? It's a piece that's done and then it's
It's a,
sent out all over Vermont, or how does that?
it's put in rest areas and, for free, some of those free things, guests, people vacationing. It's a guide that's distributed widely in this area for people that are visiting the state. Trying to encourage people who come here, enjoy themselves and have a great time to come back.
How much does it cost?
Um,
Doesn't say
That-
here.
the sheet should have been, it wasn't in your packets? But there was
I
a,
remember, it's 1,200, is that the right?
yeah, there
one?
was a sheet
Oh,
of
yeah.
all the rates.
Here it is.
I remember seeing
And
that.
so there's a variety of different price points to fit your budget.
Have we done this in the past, Kerry?
Yes, I have, a couple years in a row. There was a spreadsheet one year, I think we did, beautiful winter shot of like our industrial park and highlighted all the different companies there and how much we employ, how many people get employed in that area. Did that, trying to appeal to business people in the area that we're visiting maybe. I think the one proposed was obviously just a conceptual plan. Suzanne sent it, I didn't call her back yet. But just looking to find out if you're interested, I mean, we have not a lot of advertising money in this year, but
That's what I was gonna ask, what's the budget anyway? So,
Here somewhere.
yeah, it's here. But it's, well, the advertising budget for town manager or town manager expense
that's right.
are under
There we go. Yeah,
the
right.
second page.
So,
So
Advertising under town manager.
advertising is $4,000 and we spent $5,000 this year.
Already. Oh, we're
Yeah.
almost done now, right?
Yeah, but we
We are
sent
almost
out,
done.
didn't I, what did we send out?
We did some things for, I mean, right, we didn't just wildly misuse this budget.
Oh,
With what?
Direct mail for town meeting day.
Yes, right.
That was,
truck file.
I mean, there is a little bit of money in town manager and we only have, 3 weeks left of the year,
So,
so there's some money
what
there.
if, what if we, they get creative and depending on what we, put in there for like a picture, say if we put like farmer's market or, say, or whatever we do, maybe we take it out like, parks budget or say if I can't imagine we'd like say, hey, we do some nice stormwater thing.
Well, town manager miscellaneous
Or does that
expense,
cover everything?
it covers everything, there's a lot of, like annual, well, previously to COVID, we had an annual volunteer thank you dinner and we used that. But we thank volunteers for every department, you know, ballot workers and.
Is your gut that we should do it again? I mean, we're doing it for years. I imagine we never had, not that you ever would in this scenario, but have you ever had anybody say, I saw this ad somewhere?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, the distribution is pretty wide.
It's 200 plate, like, I think it's a little different than meet the business thing. I mean, that's
Right.
just-
Right.
Just whether or not you think it's our.
Yeah, I know, we always kick that around, don't
I don't know, like, either, it should either be come visit us for these specific reasons or events, or like, here are all the places that are hiring in town. Or, I don't know, like, it's gotta have some kind of a tangible use.
I don't like to hype.
I'm not saying do that, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying, like,
yeah,
there's
no,
gotta be a
I-
reason for it,
yeah,
not
yeah,
just
yeah.
come to our town, like, that's,
Like, I like like to do something like farmer's market, maybe car show or something, but then
Mhm.
you don't, like, is it where this is being put, is that gonna attract anybody, the audience that's grabbing those? Will they, you know,
Or
are
they
they
just
just
going
coming through, or,
Picking
you know,
it up
which?
At the rest area.
The farmer's market and the car show could. I'm just thinking, I was talking to someone today at work in Chittenden County, and they do farmer's markets. And they let me know they came up to St. Albans and
Yeah, so
farmer's market
maybe,
recently, so I don't know.
is this the vehicle that's gonna get those extra people to see it? Or should it be spent, like, in some other ad? I mean, I'm not against the town doing advertising, trying to bring more people here, because that wonderful 1%
Yeah,
local option sales
is it
tax won't grow
effective?
itself.
Yeah, is it effective?
Is it, yeah, like,
Does it come with a digital version?
I don't think,
it might,
I don't know that it comes in a digital version.
and if it does, I
Because
guess
in my
what's the reach?
experience, people might look at the brochure, but they don't keep it. Then they say, what was that? And they wanna look it up on their phone.
Right. I mean, that's one of the reasons we spent money on updating our website and trying to make it more user friendly, so. I mean, it might be worth $1,000, really, just to get a different market.
But it, you know, it says Southern Quebec too, you know,
Mhm.
so like the border's back
Yeah.
open.
Correct. And they're really pushing for that other rest area to our north. I don't know when that.
Yeah,
could be
because where are
built.
they gonna pick, you know? I can't think of a single rest stop between here and Montreal if you're driving the route I drive.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know enough to know.
Well, I don't know if it doesn't really say.
I guess if you were a
restaurant, it
private
just says
business
areas.
owner in the town, like, I think your goal here is to either help out your taxpayer or to bring people here that spend money to help grow the local option tax. Does spending this money help either of those two things? If yes, then let's do it. If no, then do we do it? And then I guess I default to Kerry on this one, because like, I think the only reason it's here is because we spent $5,000 on a $4,000 line, and we're at the end of our leash monetarily, and this is outside of the scope of the budget. But if it were ever within a budget line that was underspent, like Kerry,
I probably would have already said yes, but
yeah.
but
so-
also we have a different, you know, this is a different board, and I got a little bit of a different flavor for, and
They'll
not
give
quite
you
a
the
full
budget on the
understanding
1st
of
of
what you
July,
want.
right?
Well, your
Do you wanna-
year's up,
What
right?
is it though?
Right?
Yeah, the year's up at the end of June,
So
our
if
budget
you're
year.
gonna do this, you're gonna be in a whole new budget.
We could, but you know, I
But
really
still,
wanna,
though, it restricts like over a quarter of your budget. I
Well,
think we
depends on
budgeted
how
the
much
same.
you spend, I see 350,000 there. For a little bitty ad.
If we want to do it, it's good.
I don't know. Just think of it this way: if you attract like 10 people to the car show, maybe they stop at the store, maybe they stop to the restaurant,
Yeah.
maybe they stop, you know.
And the town gets a $3 return.
Well,
But I know, but you gotta
but
get
over
that. You
time,
have to
like-
get the volume.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just
What is the
saying.
ROI on this?
like if you put like a help wanted or like.
No,
Who
that
cares?
is just a. spit-
I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So we're just, you know, I think for us to advertise something would be like events at the park.
Oh, definitely.
You know, maybe we could just do like events at the Bay Park and then like car
Sunflower
show.
Festival, maybe
That's
if
right.
that's still a thing.
Yeah, you know, something like that, or you know,
That's
well, I mean, I
the-
think that's why she put this sample in there, right? They're pushing that park, pushing our bay.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get that. Oh,
That's
yeah.
fine,
Oh,
but-
yeah, no, I did.
So it's an ad that, I don't know if you can see that, Joanne, but that would say, look at this beautiful Bay Park. There's pictures of the car show, there's pictures of, the new Subaru dealership going in, cause everyone loves.
Am I reading this right in saying a half page is?
Half page is
570.
$575. That's
That's
what
not
I
even-
was looking at.
It's showing that we're making progress, there's a groundbreaking in there of the new town hall, stuff like that, just saying, hey, this is a place that's a good place to live and work.
And we got the best water. in the
We
union.
didn't say that yet,
Read that part out.
premature.
Drinking another one.
I don't know, okay, I think we kicked
Okay.
this can long enough, do we wanna do it or not?
Well, come on, boys, make a decision.
Wow.
Start over there.
Yeah, we'll start down that
Well,
way.
you don't, sorry for, I'm gonna start in again.
Yeah.
But don't we do one of these, or haven't we done one before, but not this one? Like,
Yes,
So is that something you do every year also, or you plan not to do it this year?
no, this was just a different version of it. I've done it before, there was a different layout that showed the industrial park, couple different
Same
years.
book, different style ad.
Yes,
Okay.
different message,
Same lender and all that.
same publication.
That ad, yeah, we ran last year.
I'm sorry?
That ad's the one we ran last year.
Right.
Yeah.
For $575, I'm not opposed to it.
I like it, but
I'll just say we try not to have 20-minute conversations about $600 decisions on a regular basis. Like, I get to make
well,
one
it's gotta be
request.
the right. Well, I get I don't know.
I trust your judgment, Kerry. Kerry said she would have done it by now, so I said.
Oh, you did. If you had the money in the budget line,
Yeah, I
right?
try
It's
not
gonna
to
be July
overspend.
1st. By the
Right.
time that it's gonna be in July
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm
so.
good.
I get it.
Just do whatever you think fits best, and then you can get some nice updated pictures maybe, and
Good decision, boys.
let's keep talking about this for another 20 minutes.
Said that with a straight face. Dude, our entire audience is already checked out.
We started with like 20 people.
Hardly
We're
ever
down to
get more than
4.
2 people.
Mm.
Alright, got it. The last item under town manager, I believe, purchasing policy, that should be an easy one. There's no changes. The one in front of you should be the one that gets approved, so we need a motion to approve it and then have you sign it, please.
So moved.
Yep.
Yeah.
I caught my eye on the part that we talked about last time, and I was just making.
Any further discussion?
Does that count?
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Pass it down, let's get it signed.
And then you got
So-
one more thing.
Yeah, the last thing on here was just, you got copied on 3 different Act 250, applications or notifications, I should say. And there's no action on that.
Do you know the opening date of the pool?
I do
20th.
not.
Programming starts the 20th or
Yeah, that's
22nd.
right.
Yeah. 18 tractor trailer trucks.
Yeah, I heard
full
it got
of
filled with
some
water,
It's
ridiculous-
filled.
so-
It's filled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that big slide up there?
I haven't seen it up yet. Is it?
Yeah.
And we
that's
didn't,
like-
just, put a pipe up to that big tank and
Right, it's right next door.
That'd be a long. You probably missed the pool. Okay.
Wrights did it, not the, wasn't done at the BPW station or. Alright, so schedule's next.
Okay, next select board meeting Wednesday, June 22nd, and Wednesday, July 6th, starting at 6:30. And we have a special meeting on July 6th at 5:30 to discuss the future of the old town hall at 579 Lake Road.
Correct.
And we're looking for
Community
comments, right?
discussion,
We want
comments,
ideas.
we want a lot of ideas,
pack
and
them into that.
who wants to buy it, and whatever.
Good luck.
Discussion.
Well, you never. So I was just thinking as we're talking about the stone house, like if we find, because this is a historic building, if we find somebody to buy it, maybe we can throw in there like, we have this, you can have this. See,
Or we
Like
just
a
say,
BOGO?
the
Take the money from
municipality give us this much money and that's what we're gonna do with it.
or whatever. I know, but
Yeah.
like if you just want to get rid of the burden over there,
Yeah,
Not
let's say
burden,
whatever
but-
money we made off of selling this went to that.
or whatever.
I tell you though, I went to plug this laptop in and it's still dead because that outlet does not work. So Brian and I have been sharing screen. So, God bless. Hey,
building yet.
I'm a licensed
Battery.
realtor. I have to
Battery.
disclose any deficiencies I know
You
about.
guys read
Or I can
that
lose
up
my
quick?
license.
Okay. Any other business?
Yeah, I have one thing.
Go ahead.
So, I'm leaning on this being my last year just because I got an 8-month at home with a double ear infection and it's, you know, I want to be there for all those nights and not leave my wife home alone. But anyway, one thing that I've always wanted to have it board or some appropriate entity look at that I never got to in 5.5 years is cell phone coverage. Like, we own property in every corner of the town, it seems, and not, like, cell phone coverage in certain areas such as this are pretty bad.
By your house.
And down here at your house.
Mine's not horrible. It used to be really bad. But it's whatever. No,
Try
I
to-
agree.
Try to
I
watch a
agree.
video without being on the town Wi-Fi from right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You know, it's the year 2022 and you're still gonna buffer for 20 minutes.
Right.
So like, I don't know if there's anything, I don't know if there's like a firm that'll come in and like tell you if you're the municipality, like, this is how you go about attracting people that put up towers or other infrastructure that,
You just gotta move, Brent.
I don't wanna do that.
Get up on the hill section.
Well, any
You go up
service
there.
up there, you got like
No,
5
I hear
feet.
what you're saying. Because if you're going down McQuam Shore in your truck and you know, you lose them right by Cole
Yeah.
Park, and then you might pick them back
There's
up.
other
by
areas in
Brooks
town too,
Farm.
not
Just
just
saying
where
you're
I
left
live.
out of here.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like that's a bad one.
Yeah.
You know, French Hill, but
There's gotta be a company that'll come through for some amount of money and like map by your carrier how strong it actually is. Like, there's gotta be equipment where they go and they park and this is your test point to this carrier, this is what this one got. And then maybe there's some kind of way to say, well, if you offer, maybe there's a like not a tower, like something that's not ugly that could go somewhere at Cohen Park in a way that didn't make the park look like heck.
Sounds like you need to add that to the list
I don't know. I just like
to see it.
I'd
I
like
just
to
don't
see it
know if you can
outsourced.
convince those companies to.
A lot of times they pay the landowner like
That, well, yeah.
they pay.
They
So if you
pay.
come in and say, hey, you know, we got this land, we just want to see this improve. Like, how can you do things that don't cost small or large fortunes that impact a lot of people?
We were working on one cell carrier, they haven't gotten back to us, so they kind of move at their own rhythm.
Like, I don't know. That's just one thing that's always been like, in the back burner in my mind that I wanted to get on paper somewhere. I don't know if there's anything that can be done, or if other areas have gone through things that we can learn from. But so we've got the old garage property. We've got Cohen Park. We've got, not that you need it up on that end, but the town forests. You've got we've got a bunch of spare land on Brigham Road. Like, if something needed to be done, maybe we could partner with somebody. I don't know. That's all I have.
Okay.
It's all right, mention, I know last year we changed our logo for Pride Month, and I just wonder if that was the pleasure of the board to change the logo again like we did last year. And I think, we, you know, someone had come and approached last year, I think, about, doing some kind of Juneteenth celebration, and it looks like, there is one that's planned, somewhere off Church Street, and I think it's gonna be right on June 20th, so I just wanted to mention that. So I didn't know if we could, maybe look at the logo, make that, I think we've changed it for other events too, Corey, right? Something like that, so. And that's it.
We have an approved logo,
Mhm.
and about 2 hours ago, I asked to have that done tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So-
I know we
so-
waited, this is our first meeting in June, so.
I just,
yeah.
I think since we're celebrating it, I was gonna do it automatically, but realized we hadn't done it yet. But if you wanna provide different direction, that's cool too. But I meant, like, we got those approved, we should just automatically, I think, for
Yeah,
the
if we-
month.
Every time there's
Do
an applicable
exactly.
one, yeah.
Sure.
But thank you for pointing it out, cause we had
I wonder if
forgotten
that
until
like
today.
made a business suite app would allow you to like go in a year ahead and do all your temporary profile picture changes in like one sitting.
It would be great.
You can publish posts on the scheduled timeline. I wonder how far out you could go. I don't know. You just
Yeah,
set it and forget it.
so
once
it's
a year.
automatic, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing,
Thank you.
I would, just looking over this, pavement thing, it seems that's gone up again, huh? The price,
Yeah, the liquid is going up $2.74 a ton. That could rise again, but anytime you sign a contract, it actually, the small print will say that even until we get it done, if it goes up, you're gonna pay it. Just like the fuel pumps.
so our mileage is changing every day.
Pretty much, we're still good. We eliminated the 3 roads, but right now we're still in the ballpark. We'll know better when they start and what the liquid prices
You ain't got
are.
a date on that though, huh, to start?
Nah, probably won't be until August, I'm assuming.
Saw 509 at the pump for the first time today.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Maintenance one.
Yeah, we're right at exit 19.
Hmm.
You can drive down to
I'd love to
Federal
pay
Street and get
$5.09 for my
it for
truck.
$4.99.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe that's it. Executive session tonight. Anybody wanna make a motion that we want to executive session? To discuss, I'll just read it.
Personnel.
To discuss personnel matter where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. It is further moved to enter into the executive session to discuss personnel matters under the provisions of Title I, Section 303A1 of the Vermont statute, and to invite the town manager, Kerry Johnson, and the Director of Operations, Corey Parent.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.